Good day folks, Sean here from Air Photography. So this is my beginner's guide for the Insta360 Ace Pro 2. Whenever brands release new hardware like this, I like to create beginner's guides to help those who are brand new get familiarized with the hardware and the basic functionality. Now when you purchase the base kit, you're basically going to get the camera, you're going to get a USB-C to USB-C charging cable, you're going to get one battery, a thumb screw, you're going to get a magnetic mount, and you're going to get this microphone cap, which we'll talk a little bit more about coming up here in a minute. On top of that, they have a dual battery kit that's basically going to give you an additional battery. Now, my personal recommendation, if you haven't purchased one yet, and this is going to be your first action camera, it is very beneficial to get that extra battery. So let's go ahead here and we're going to take a look around the camera. The first thing you'll notice here is we have a removable lens protector. So it just twists and comes right off. And that's really important because these are action cameras. Sometimes they take impacts. And with a removable cover, if it gets damaged or scratched, you can easily replace it. We have a front-facing screen. Now this screen is not a preview screen like some action cameras. This screen here will only display information about recording. To get a front-facing display, they do it a little bit differently, which we'll take a look at here in a second. One thing that's new with the Ace Pro 2 this year is that we have a built-in windscreen, and that can be very important to help cut back on wind noise in certain scenarios. It actually works quite well. But if you're going to be using this in the water, you do have to remove it and put on the microphone cap. That's the little part that came with the kit. And to remove it and replace it with that one, you just press and push in that direction. It comes right off. Then you just lay the little cap over top and lock it in. And it comes off the same way. And then you can put the microphone windscreen protector back on. And it just clips in like that. So for everyday use, you would leave that windscreen protector on. And if you're going to be filming in the water, underwater, then you would put the cap over top. Moving around the camera here, we have our shutter button at the top. We use that to start and stop recording or to take photos, depending on what mode we're in. On this side here, we have our battery compartment door. It just slides down like that and opens up. And this door does come off. So if you accidentally pull it off, you didn't break it. There's just little clips there. And you just line them up with that bar at the top and it just clips back in. On the other side, we have another door, a smaller door, and underneath that is our USB-C port. We're going to use that port for connecting to computers, but we'll also use that port to charge up the camera. And right above that, we have a slot for a memory card. Above that door, we have our power button, but that can also be used to switch modes when the camera's powered on. On the back of the camera, we have our main touch screen. So we're going to use that for framing shots, getting a preview of what we're filming. And this screen actually folds out, and that's how we get a front-facing preview if we so choose. And to do that, we have two buttons, one on either side. We just press them in, and the screen can fold up. And you can actually set it at whatever angle, depending on how the camera is mounted. But that's going to give you a nice large preview if you have the camera mounted out in front of you. And on the bottom here, we have our magnetic mount receiver. The magnetic mount that comes with it is designed to connect one way. You can see we have this lens kind of graphic there at the front. You just want to line that up with the front lens there, and you can see it clips right in. Now it is reversible. The magnetics don't want you to attach it, but if you force it in, it'll still connect, which can be beneficial if you need to rotate the camera. Now these magnetic mounts have a finger mount on them, so they are compatible with a wide variety of mounts. Doesn't have to be Insta360 brand mounts. They are compatible with GoPro mounts and other third-party mounts, anything that utilizes a finger mount. For example, we have a finger mount on this accessory. This is from Insta360. And to mount it, you just line up the fingers, and then you insert your thumb screw, and then you have your camera attached. And that's across the board. Most mounts work the exact same way. They utilize finger mounts. And as mentioned, it does not have to be an Insta360 brand. These magnetic mounts are really convenient. It allows you to move your camera from mount to mount very quickly. The only thing I do recommend, if you're going to be using a few different mounts regularly throughout the day, it's a good idea to pick up a few of these extra. You can purchase these independently, and you want to have them attached to all your accessories, because that's what's going to make this magnetic quick release system very convenient. Otherwise, you still have to mess around with thumb screws. So that'll all boil down to personal preference. Now at this point, we're going to talk about charging and memory. Depending on the package you purchase, it may come with memory, it may not. You might have to provide your own memory card. There are many different brands available. Insta360 sells their own brands. You can see this one here is from Insta360. It's a 256 gigabyte card. The other brand I like to use is SanDisk. I usually use the Extreme or the Extreme Pro. To insert the memory, we're going to open up that small door. And I should mention this door comes off as well. So if you accidentally pull it off, again, you didn't break it. It connects the exact same way as the other door. There's a notch there that you just line up with the pin and it just clips in. To install the memory, you're going to have the graphic facing the lens. Slide it into the slot and just press it in until it clicks. To install the battery, we're going to open up that side door. We're just going to line up the leads with the leads in the bottom. This battery will only insert in one way. If you put it in backwards, it's not going to clip in. So you know you'll only ever get it in the right way. Now, another thing you're going to notice that did not come with the package is a charging brick. Now, with that said, many of us already have these kicking around. They come with smartphones and tablets, some laptops. So you may already have one that is fully compatible. At minimum, I would recommend a 30-watt charger. This is one that I use quite a bit. It's from Anker. This is a 65-watt charger, and it works perfectly with this setup. You can use the included cable that comes with it for charging, or you can use any USB-C cable that you prefer to use. Sometimes I use different ones just because they're longer and they reach the plug better. And to charge up the camera, we're just going to open up again that small door and we're just going to plug it in. There's a red light that will come at the front there that will signify that it's charging, and again one on the back. Now at this point, before we can use the camera, there are a few things we need to do. Most notably, we have to update the firmware, and you can do so by downloading the Insta360 app, either from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, and then go ahead, power on the camera, and launch the app. It's going to ask you to confirm the connection the first time. You do that on the back of the camera. That's something you only have to do once. Once it's made a connection, it's going to prompt you to install the latest firmware. That can take anywhere from a few minutes upwards of 5 minutes, and you'll get a confirmation when it's done. Now, once you have that firmware installed, you don't have to use the app to use the camera. However, it is a great companion app. You can use it as a preview. You can get a preview of what you're filming. You can use it as a remote, and they have a ton of really powerful editing tools built in. So it's definitely a worthwhile app, a great companion for the camera. To power on the camera, we're going to press the power button on the side, just a quick press. As you can see, it goes ahead and powers on. To power off the camera, we're going to do a press and hold, and the camera will go ahead and power off. So now we're going to take a look around the menu system. I'm going to show you how to adjust settings. This is the main interface that you're going to come to when you power the camera on. This camera is capable of different filming modes such as video, time lapses, photos, and there's a couple different ways in which we can change what filming mode we're in. The easiest way is just to swipe on the screen. You can see that menu comes up, and we can go through all the different options. So we have video, photo, we have interval, we have burst photo, star lapse, slow motion, loop recording, dash cam, time lapse, time shift, and free frame video. I'm not going to go through all those modes in this video. We're going to stick to the basics, but as you can see, it gives you a lot of options for different types of creative shooting. But let's go back to video mode here, and we're going to take a look at some of the buttons on the screen. You can see at the top here, it tells us how much recording time we have left on the current memory card, and that will adjust depending on the settings and what mode we're in. Down at the bottom here, it shows us an icon of a video camera, signifying we're in video mode. Again, that'll change depending on what mode we put it in. And beside that, it gives us some information about our shooting mode. Right now, we're filming at 4K 30, and we will take a look at that in a minute on how to change all that. Beside that is our zoom level. So right now, we're at 1x zoom. We can tap on that, and that's going to go into 2x zoom. And we can tap it again to bring us back to the normal 1x. We can also double tap on the screen. That'll do the same thing. You can see we went into the 2x zoom. Beside that is our field of view. Right now we're in a mega field of view. That's actually my favorite field of view to film in, but we have all different ones. We have action, mega, ultra, de-warp, linear, and we have horizon leveling, which we'll talk a little bit about here coming up. Each one of these is going to give you a different type of field of view. Some of them are going to be more cropped in, and others are going to be a lot wider. But the wider the field of view, you're going to start getting distortion. So for example, I have it on action there. You can see as I turn the camera, we get a little bit of distortion on the back of the desk there. Same with ultra. You can see we start getting some distortion. This mega field of view still gives you a nice wide field of view, but the distortion is not as bad. And same with de-warp and linear. We get very little distortion, but it is a more cropped in field of view. So it just depends on what you're filming and what you're going for. And right below that, you can see we have something called 45 and one called 360. Basically, that is horizon leveling. And just to kind of demonstrate that, right now we have it at 45 degrees. And what that means is the horizon will stay perfectly level. I'll just show you a demonstration on screen here. The horizon will stay perfectly level up to when the camera is at about a 45 degree angle. If you go past 45 degrees, then the horizon will move. So that's a really nice feature, and it can help keep the horizon perfectly level. Now, that's not going to be ideal for every scenario, but if you want to keep your horizon level, it actually works quite well. The next one is 360, and that one's actually really impressive. With it, you can turn the camera a complete 360 degrees, but your horizon is going to stay perfectly level. Again, that can be very important in some scenarios, and it actually works quite well. The thing to keep in mind when using those two modes, it is going to be cropped in quite a bit, so it's not going to be ideal for every situation. Above that, it says vid, and it has a little icon. That's telling us what color profile we're currently in, and I'll show you how to adjust that coming up here in a minute. And above that, we have a battery icon. If we tap on it, it's going to give us a percentage of how much battery's left in it. Now, there's different menus we can bring up to adjust different things. First of all, we can swipe from the right-hand side. This gives us all different options. At the top, you can see right now we're in auto mode, so everything's automatically set. But we could switch it over to manual mode if we want to set our own shutter speed and various aspects. But in auto mode, we still have a few options we can change. We can select our color profile. Standard is a good way to film. It's not going to be too oversaturated. But if you do like a more saturated look, we have the vivid profile. And there's a bunch of others that you can try out to see what you like best. A couple other important ones is this jitter blur reduction. Sometimes in low light scenarios, you can get a bit of jitter in the video when it's trying to stabilize it. So if you enable that, that will help get rid of that. And of course, we can set our sharpness. I think medium is a good kind of middle ground. Some people don't like things that are over sharp. Medium just does a pretty good job. If you do like it a little bit sharper, you can put it to high. If you want to do your own sharpening in post, then I would set it to low. At the top, we can swipe down. This is going to bring us into the main menu system. You can see we get some icons for the most common tasks. We can swipe over to the right to bring up even more. And then we can click on this icon here. That's going to take us into some of the more customizable settings. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them in this video. There's a few that we're going to touch base on as we go along, but it's a good idea to go in and familiarize yourself with them. Now, when it comes to filming, of course, sometimes you're going to want to adjust the settings, and we can do so by either swiping up from the bottom or by tapping on where it says 4K 30. You can see that brings up all our settings, but we can also just swipe up and it'll do the same thing. We have some different settings on the side here. We can turn on active HDR. We can adjust our stabilization. We can have it on standard. We can turn it right off, or we can give it some high stabilization. We can also set our aspect ratio, but we can go to a 4:3, which is more of a square look. That way you can do your own cropping in post, or if you want a more cinematic look, we can set it there. And we can set duration, so when you hit the record button, if you only want it recording for 15 seconds because you're just capturing little clips, we can set that all the way up to 3 hours. And then beside that, we have our resolution. Most common that people are going to be filming in is 4K at 30 or perhaps 60, or that's what I tend to film in anyways. Now, when it comes to capturing with your Ace Pro 2, there's 4 different ways in which we can capture content. The most common way is obviously just hitting the shutter button. We're in video mode right now, so when I hit the shutter button, you can see it's going to start recording, and we can stop recording. The other way to capture is voice control. This supports voice control, but we do have to enable that first, so we're going to swipe down from the top, and then we've got to swipe over to bring up the next menu system. And you can see this icon here, voice control. We're going to enable that. And if we scroll down, it'll give us a list of commands we can say to it. So now we can say start recording. You can see the camera will just go ahead and start recording, and we can say stop recording. And we can say take photo. You can see the camera went ahead and took a photo. But what's interesting there is that we didn't actually have to switch the mode first. Once we said the command, it automatically put us into photo mode and took the photo. And same thing again, right now we're in photo mode, but I can say start recording. You can see the camera put us into video mode and started the recording. So that can be a really handy way to capture, especially if the camera is out of reach. And of course, you can use the shutter button to stop, or you can use a voice command again. We can even shut off the camera. We can say shut down camera. You can see the camera went ahead and powered off. Now, the third way to capture is by gesture control, and that can be very beneficial in some scenarios again. Perhaps you're in a noisy environment, or it's windy and the camera can't hear you speaking to it, we can give it a series of gestures. And again, we have to enable that feature. We're going to swipe down and turn on gesture control. And if we scroll down, it does list the gestures we can do. We show the palm of our hand to start recording video, and it actually works quite well. And you can just put your palm up again and it will stop recording. And if we want to take a photo, we just give it the peace sign. And at the top there, whether you have voice control or gesture control enabled, we're going to have a little icon signifying what one is enabled. Now, the fourth way to capture is something called quick capture, and we have to enable that first before we can use it. So again, to enable it, we're going to swipe down and we're going to click that icon there. That's going to turn quick capture on. And essentially what that is, I'm going to go ahead and power the camera off here. Normally, if something was to happen out in front of you quickly, you would have to power on the camera, wait for it to turn on, then hit the shutter button. But if you're just out filming and something interesting is happening, all you have to do is hit the shutter button while the camera is powered off. You can see the camera is just going to power on and start recording right away. And again, when we hit the shutter button, the camera just went ahead and powered off. So that is an option as well. It can save you a little bit of time and help you capture a shot. Now, when it comes to recording video, a couple other interesting things this camera is capable of. First of all, let's start a recording here. So down at the bottom here, we get our timer that shows how long we've been recording for. But say you've got something that, you've come to a boring stretch, but you don't want to create a separate recording. We can actually just pause the recording. So right now, the camera's still active, but it's not recording any video. You can wait for the boring pause or, if nothing interesting is happening. But when the action starts again, we can tap that button. And as you can see there, it's now going to continue recording. So we're not going to have two different video files there. It's all going to be merged into one. And when you're done recording, we can hit the stop button there, and that's going to stop the recording. So a really nice feature. Now I'm going to start another recording here because another interesting feature they have is called cancel recording. Say you've been recording for 10 minutes and then you decide you don't want the video because, nothing interesting was happening. It didn't work out the way you were hoping. Normally you would have to stop recording, go into the preview, find the file, delete it, which can be kind of time consuming. And especially if you're on the go, you're just capturing quickly, you don't want a whole bunch of junk video files in there that you're not going to use. What we can do here is press and hold the shutter button. You can see we get this option to cancel the recording. Now I can just hit cancel recording, but we can also put a check mark in there where it says do not show again. That way it's even quicker. But now that recording has been canceled and it's not going to be saved to the memory card. And a third interesting feature is we can add on to existing recordings, even if it's something that we filmed a week ago. And I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. But the next thing we're going to take a look at is how to preview our media. We're going to swipe over from the left-hand side. That's going to bring us into the last video that we recorded. We can click on that icon at the top. That's going to give us a grid view of everything that's currently on the memory card. We can go in and we can preview the media. We can use that button at the bottom to scrub through it. We can adjust the volume of the playback. We can delete the video file. But what is really interesting, I'm going to bring up this video that we recorded while I was just here at the desk. You can see here it says 26 seconds, so that video is 26 seconds long. We can tap on that, and it's going to ask us if we want to continue the recording. We'll hit continue, hit the shutter button. So now what I'm recording is going to be added to the end of that video, so it's not going to create a whole new video clip. And like I said, you can do that to videos you shot a week ago, a month ago, any video that's stored on the memory card. So if you're just adding to something, you want to keep it all on one file, that's a really interesting way to do it. And then again, when we're done, just hit the stop button. Now, before I go here, one last thing I want to show you. It's a really powerful tool that's built into the Ace Pro 2, and that is something called AI Highlight Assistant. Now, again, we do have to enable that feature before you start recording. If we swipe down to get into our menu system, this icon here, we're going to enable that. And now once we start recording, that AI Highlight Assistant is going to be active. And basically what that does is while you're recording, it's going to be using different criteria to try and find interesting spots in the video. And that can be really beneficial for exporting, because sometimes if you're going to be exporting videos to your smartphone or tablet, we have limited storage. So that allows us to import just the highlighted clips. And it can also be beneficial when editing, when using the auto editing. So I'll just show you how that works on footage that I've already shot. We'll go to our preview gallery. You can see all these videos have this little flag. Some of them say 1, some of them say 2. That one says 3. There's one down there that says 6. So that is different moments in the video that the AI has found to be interesting. So what we can do here is we can pick one of the videos. We can click on this flag at the bottom, and then we get these little thumbnails, and that's going to preview the different highlights that it's picked up that it finds interesting. And we can go back and forth. We can click each one. It'll take us right to that spot. And as we're going through the video, if we find a spot that it missed that we think is interesting, we can click that check mark to the side, and that's going to add one as well. But now what we can do is click this button here at the top, and then it's going to ask us what highlight clips we want to export. We can select the ones we want, hit the save button. It's going to ask us, do we want to export each one as a separate clip, or we can export just those highlights as one single clip. So I'm going to select separate clips, and right now what it's doing is saving those little clips to the memory card. So they're going to be now their own individual files. So now when we go back to the grid view, those are the 3 little clips that it exported. Each one is 6 seconds, which will be perfect if we're just making a little edit. So that's a really handy feature, and really the only action camera that's capable of doing that. So yeah, folks, that is my beginner's guide for the Insta360 Ace Pro 2. Just some basic functionality of the camera, how to get up and running with it quickly. If this is a camera that you're going to be purchasing or you've recently purchased, make sure you're subscribed, as I will be making more advanced tutorials, diving in deeper to some of the specific features that this camera is capable of. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it and found it had value. Give it a thumbs up if you did. It's always greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the next one.